So what I want to talk to you today about is what Michael Singer calls inner solution consciousness. A lot of us look to our outer world to find the answers. We go out into the world. We have this external journey or this outer exploration to find answers that we could have found by going within. But we don't do that. And one of the things that I found on my path was that all the answers really were within. And I just had to look there. I just had to go there. So I'm contemplating this interesting quote that I heard tonight. The quote was, "You can get smart from other people's knowledge, but you can't get wise from other people's wisdom." So what this essentially means to me is that the intellect can take in a lot. When I started on my spiritual path, I needed to satisfy my intellectual mind heavily. I had to saturate my mind. I believe my mind was so overrun with negative thinking and base emotions that I really just didn't. I needed consciousness, and I needed it to come through the intellect first. I needed to reorganize what was in here and fill myself, literally saturate myself with positive material and brain material, things that I could really sink my teeth into. I read a lot of books, and I have a photographic memory. So I often surprise my family when I can quote just about anything I read, and I can do it at length, and I can also relate a lot of different patterns that I see in lots of different books. That was a really cool thing for me to do for a while. I would have a quote for every occasion, and I was like an encyclopedia of quotes and name the situation, and I had a quote that applied or a quote that was helpful. I still offer quotes because I'm a coach and I work with a lot of people, and sometimes quotes are encouraging. They're helpful. They may be the very thing that a person needs to hear. But what I always tell people, because I was a reader, and I am a big reader, as you can see, there's a lot of books here. Reading is essential, and it's essential to reorganize the mind and give the brain, give the intellect something to hold on to create this foundation, this intellectual foundation. But upon that, we need the emotional intelligence. We need the spiritual intelligence. We need to eventually come back to our own wisdom. So why can't I get wise from listening to somebody else's wisdom? Because I haven't internalized it. I haven't integrated it. I haven't dwelled upon it. I haven't meditated upon it. I haven't applied it. I haven't practiced it. So if I give you a quote, even if it's my own knowledge or wisdom, you can take that wisdom and you can think about it, and it can dawn on you as something that's useful to you. But how do you become wise with that same knowledge, that same wisdom? You take that wisdom and you find out what it means to you. And you take that wisdom and you sit with it until out of your consciousness, out of this wisdom within, this higher self within, your higher self receives. It's almost like you're feeding yourself wisdom, and then you're producing wisdom. Input, output. And here's the kicker. You're just remembering what you already know. And a lot of people don't get that. They think because we're externally focused, our eyes look out and our eyes don't look in. We think that our knowledge, our information, our education comes from outside of us, from books, from teachers, from videos. And we become information addicts. A lot of us in the information age are downtrodden with information, and we're not taking that information and sitting with it. It's like I heard from T. Harv Eker the other day. I was listening to a webinar by T. Harv Eker, the millionaire mindset teacher, and he talked about learn and do. That was his secret for success. That was it. Learn, do. Learn, do, and just repeat. And if you're learning but you're not doing, then how are you integrating anything, right? So wisdom comes from taking what you've learned, internalizing it, meditating on it, relaxing into it, and not just taking it word for word from someone else, but figuring out what it means to you, practicing that wisdom. Like, let me give you an example, the 4 Agreements. If you've ever read the 4 Agreements, there's 4 simple agreements that you can live by, written in that book. They're plain as day, and it's simple English that a 3-year-old could understand. But here's the thing. It's easy to take those and apply them, and it's easy not to. And it's not that easy to apply them because it takes actual focus and work. But what I'm saying is that they're simple principles that anyone can live by if you simply remain conscious and apply them through your day. Apply them when the situation arises. Apply them when you're being confronted. So let me give you the 4 agreements, and I'll give you an example. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. The second agreement, don't make assumptions. The third agreement, don't take things personally. The fourth agreement, always do your best. Okay? How do I know these? Because I've meditated on them. I use these. I apply these. I integrate these. I know what these mean to me. I know because I was filled. My mind was sick with resentments when I found myself in the deepest hole. The deepest part of my suffering was realizing that my mind was sick. I was in my mother's basement, living at home at the time, approaching 30 years old. And I found out that I didn't have an addiction, but my mind was sick. I was using drugs and I was drinking heavily, and I didn't have any purpose for my life, and I was fairly depressed. But here's the thing. What I had to do was find my way out of that situation. And the way I did it was applying the wisdom that I was reading, that I was learning. Learn and do. Learn and do. And the basement of my mother's house became a laboratory. It became my laboratory for testing these things that I learned. And so if my mind was sick with resentments because I took things personally, then my job was to process the emotion using tools like the emotional freedom technique, EFT. I learned that in the basement of my mother's house, actually. That was the first emotional release tool that I learned. I learned it, I applied it, and I journaled after the shift. I would create an energetic shift. I would release emotion, and then I'd journal about my experiences. Wow, this just changed, and this shifted, and I noticed that I'm lighter. I noticed that I'm freer. I noticed that I'm not angry at this person anymore. And I took note of the space that was being created in my body. I would meditate on my results, and then I would journal again. So do you see what I'm doing? I'm practicing. I'm taking wisdom. I'm practicing it, I'm integrating it, I'm applying it, and then it becomes a part of me. I take it out in the world. I practice it in my daily life. So now I'm an embodiment of that wisdom, okay? The 4 Agreements is a wisdom book. It says that on the cover. It says a Toltec wisdom book. And I know plenty of people who have read that book cover to cover and said, oh yeah, it's a great book. And I said, is your life changed? And they said, well, it's hard to practice those things. And I say, why is it? And they say, well, it's work. And I say, yes, it is. Yes, it's work. It is work to watch your mind. It is work to watch your thoughts. It is work to take these principles into your daily life and monitor yourself as these things happen. As someone confronts you and they're triggering you, can you have the awareness to apply these principles in the moment, in the heat of the moment? Someone just triggers you. It gets a rise out of you. You feel the blood rushing through your whole body, up to your head. You feel all the blood concentrating up here, and you feel like you're going to blow a fuse, right? Can you, with your breath, come back into your heart? As you come back into your heart, you'll notice that the energy starts to move out of your head, back into your body, so that you have emotional awareness. You have control over your reactions, right? You can respond instead of react. If you're just reacting, you're coming from this emotional trigger. It's really a psychological trigger, but really you've got unprocessed emotion. They're triggering your wound, and all of a sudden the psyche puts up a defense. The defense is to react, and it'll react by getting that person to shut up. And if they won't shut up, maybe you'll get them out of your way. If you can't get them out of your way, maybe you'll punch them. So do you see what's going on here? This is unhealthy. If you get something from this message and you can take it away and use it and apply it, great. Become wise. take this knowledge or knowledge from something you're learning or reading. But here's my caveat. Take that and work with it. Take that and learn from it. Take that and apply it. Become wise. And then teach what you know to others. Because this message carried on into the world, carried forth by you as you become wise, this is what changes the world. Okay? If you want to impact the world, start with yourself. Start on the inner plane. Okay? This is inner solution consciousness. Problems can be resolved on the inner plane. We don't need to change our external environment. We don't need to control how people show up in our lives. We don't need to make sure everything is perfect so that we can be at peace. I simply go within. I find that peacefulness within my being. And I sit with that stillness. And I work with any tension that arises. And I come to a place of peace inside of myself. And from that place of peace, I go out into the world. And I'm no longer bothered by things. I'm no longer triggered by things. I've resolved things on an inner plane. Okay? Inner solution consciousness. So try this. Try some of these techniques. Always keep up your meditation practice. Always resolve things on the inner plane. I'm going to tell you a little secret about meditation that I learned from one of my spiritual teachers, Dr. Joseph Levry, the founder of Nam Yoga and Research Center in Santa Monica, California. Dr. Levy says this about meditation. I always love this, and I love telling people this because a lot of people have an idea of meditation, like meditation is just sitting in stillness and not being bothered by anything and getting to a place of no mind, no thought. And that's a beautiful idea, and a lot of people adhere to that. But what I know of the path is that meditation is a space for us to resolve inner conflict. It's to process emotions, okay? It's to bring up these mental images and resolve or dissolve the emotional attachment, the feeling, the trigger, the stored energy. So think about that when you meditate. If you're comfortable in meditation, maybe you're not doing it right. If you're uncomfortable, don't be alarmed. Just work with it. Work with what's coming up. Work with the emotions, because there are going to be emotions, feelings, and you'll have to feel these feelings in order to work with them. Otherwise, you'll be running scared all of your life. You'll be running from your own emotions, and you're a prisoner in your own body because these emotions are like chasing you, and you're trying to avert them. So aversion doesn't work. Ignorance doesn't work. And craving doesn't work. Always needing some other thing, okay? What works is stillness, equanimity. What works is going within, resolving things on the inner plane, and then going out into the world and being the peace that you want to see in the world. Be the peace that you want to see in the world. Create that on the inner plane. That's my message. I hope you enjoyed it.